until we're blue in the face to abstain from sex or not have sex, but we're kind of clueless. You know, we got to this point in our lives, but we don't really know anything when it comes to teenagers oftentimes. And I definitely agree with you. You know, I mean, abortion should not be a means for birth control. It shouldn't. And it's keep your legs closed, you know, like as far as, you know, going out sleeping around and having multiple babies' fathers and everything like that. But we also have people who are fighting, saying, well, I'm not necessarily opposed to getting rid of cells, if that's what you want to call them, but I'm opposed to having to pay for it. Well, I did some research, and an abortion runs between $700 and $1,500. Now, we're opposed to this, but now you're going to be forcing women to have babies, women who may not be able to afford them. So we're now going to pay for subsidized daycare, welfare, medical care. We're going to pay for all of that when someone may have been able to say, I can't handle this. Let me take care of the situation beforehand. So I just feel like I said, Brooke Hatlin, he says, the world went and got itself in a big damn hurry. We don't think things through. We don't think of the repercussions, the all around repercussions of things that could happen. And why are we in everybody's business? It's like, we got to be in everybody's business in the right way.
Yeah, that's true, Amy. That's so true. And now, so hello, Reverend Fordham. How are you this evening? And we're going to talk some more, Amy, in a few moments. I'm going to play this Get Out and Vote song again for Nolan. And then, Nolan, I'm going to let you go ahead and give your closing remarks. Nolan gets up at the wee hours in the morning. So let me play this for you, Nolan, and then you can give your closing remarks. Wait, was that the same one I just played a few minutes ago?
Yes.
No, that was the same one I played a few minutes ago. Wait a minute.
Favorite song for tomorrow, Get Out and Vote. And my closing would be, let's be about it. Let's talk about it. Let's be about it. Let's get out there and save our democracy. Let's get out there and vote tomorrow. Everybody, get out there and vote tomorrow. Yes. The polls don't close. I mean, in New York, our polls close 9 o'clock. So we have 6 in the morning, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. It closed in New York City.
Oh, y'all's polls close at 9?
Yes, New York City.
Wow.
So it's going down tomorrow.
Okay.
In my household, we all going out to vote tomorrow. We are Democrats. So, people that in our interests. Like I said, let's get out there and vote. Let's not talk about it. Let's be about it. Let's get to the polls. And like I said earlier, if somebody need a ride to the polls, try to help them out to get to the polls.
Yes.
Help our neighbors get to the polls.
Yes.
So with that being said, I would like to say good night to everybody. And my last word is vote, 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 vote. Let's vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's vote.
Let's take this serious. Let's take this serious. People die for us to vote. There's a lot of blood on this. So we have to take advantage of this. These are the people's, making sure we have the funds to make sure our kids get to school, get the bus, teachers, So, let's put the good use of voting to the vote tomorrow. With that being said, I would like to say good night. See you
All
on the
right. Good night,
Good
Nolan.
night,
Thank
Nolan.
you.
All right, everybody on the count of three.
Thank
Let's
you.
say get out
Thank
and
you.
vote. 1,
Thank
2,
you.
3.
See you
Get out
next
and
Get
vote.
out and
Get out and vote.
Get out and vote. Vote, vote,
Vote.
vote. And we'll
Vote.
talk
Yes.
hopefully this week to see who's gonna win tomorrow
Yes.
night. I might be tired, but tomorrow night I'm gonna be up a little late to watch this, to watch what's going on. I gotta be
All
part of
right,
that.
Nolan.
So y'all have
All right.
all y'all good night.
Good night.
All right. Good night, Nolan. Good night. All right. Now, the next thing that we talked about, Amy, it talks about the right to choose who you love and all that stuff, and right to who you marry. Now, with that, again, okay, I'm not pro, I guess we call it pro gay rights. I don't know what to call it. But I am not, I don't believe in marrying the same sex. And again, while I don't believe in same-sex marriage, I still believe that everybody has a right to choose. So if, a person or same-sex relationships, put it that way, and the marriages I'm just totally against because, God has, put in his word that, hey, a man and woman, he created man and woman, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, and not Madam and Adam. And that we're supposed to multiply and replenish the earth, be fruitful and multiply. And two men can't multiply, two women can't multiply. And it goes against the principles of God. However, I still believe that if a person chooses to, be in a relationship with the same sex, that's their choice. Because God still gives us the right to choose. And so that person shouldn't be bashed. That person should not be like how some people go around and they beat up gay people and they kill and torture gay people. I think that's very wrong because God gives us a right to choose, and they made a choice to have a relationship, to be with the same sex, and so that's their choice. And they have to deal with God, and everyone, no matter what we do in life, people, hear me good, we're all going to have to be held accountable for whatever we're doing in our lives, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's right or wrong in God's sight. We all have to stand before God in the judgment day. And so, but while we're living our lives, nobody should be able to dictate to us what we can and cannot do. However, those, the church ministers and pastors and preachers, that preach and teach against homosexuality, that's what they're supposed to do. But however, although, you're teaching against homosexuality, at the same time, you're still supposed to love those individuals as well, because they are still human beings. And you pray for their deliverance if they need to be delivered from that. But in the meantime, you got to love them. You can't hate them, because God is not a God of hate. He's a God of love. And we all have differences of opinions in this world. And just because we have a difference of opinion doesn't mean that I don't like a certain person or like I hate a certain person, and they have different beliefs. And so what? So what? We all need to respect each other's opinions and religious beliefs, even political affiliations, because we're all human beings and we have that right to choose, no matter what it is, no matter what it is. So people stop getting on that like a high horse and so just filled with hate. I just don't like people that's filled with hatred. And there's so much hatred in the world today. And when we look at this election, we see hatred with between some of these candidates that are doing so much and going all out to bash another candidate. Okay, that's hatred. Why not run your campaign and talk about yourself and what you plan on doing to better this country, or better your city, or better your state. Why do you have to bash your opponent? That's not right. I don't think that's right. And I hate that opponent bashing. It should not be done. And they need to get rid of that and make it so that each candidate should just be able to promote their campaign and not try to degrade another candidate. It's just so very wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
And
Amy, it looks
Chinchilla,
like you want to say something. Yeah.
are you aware? Well, I'm gonna actually go back to the you know, individuals in same-sex relationships. I personally don't feel that that's a choice. I feel that people are born that way. That's just me and my
Okay.
stance, because I know with me, you know, I've been propositioned before and I'm like, I could never do that. It's not a choice. I'm a straight woman. So my personal thing is, I feel that, you know, we are born how we're born. And,
Yeah.
you know, I am supportive of those who live, you know, alternate lifestyles than what I'm familiar with. But I was just made aware that when political ads are put forth to the news companies, they are not allowed to alter those ads, even if they're not factual. So for someone who is hooked on, say, Fox News, even if Fox News didn't want to air that, and obviously I'm not a Fox News watcher, but you know, that ad, they're not allowed to alter those clips in any way. So the political parties can put out whatever they want, and they have to be run. And they can be run without the newscaster's permission. So I believe it was Jim Gardner who was put into some type of a political ad somehow, and he didn't consent to that. It wasn't something he would have stood by. But that ad had to be run as the political party put it forth. So we have to be really careful where we get our information. We have to really dig. And, you know, so many people get that information on Facebook news or from their friends who got it from who knows where. So we need to be really conscious of where we're getting things. And I'll tell you, I mean, a couple of years ago, I was not a political person. I voted, but I'm like, I am so political now. I'm more political than I've ever been in my entire life, but I'm researching. I'm really looking for true facts from sources that aren't specifically for a specific party or a specific agenda. You know, like, get your facts straight, know what you're voting for, and know what that means. Know what that means to you, to your loved ones, you know, in this election, to your daughters, to the criminal justice system, you know, so many different things. Like, research and learn and understand. You know, we hear so many negative things that we feel like Biden, oh, he sold all this oil. Well, those reserves that he sold, he did exactly what was intended to be done with them. And most people don't realize that that's what they were intended to do. And they'll say, oh, he just sold all of our oil. And they just run with that, run with what they hear, you know? So many things we really need to be educated and really know what we're talking about. And also be careful when we are telling people something that we know, and make sure that when we're sharing that information with them, that we're speaking with facts, so we don't lose that credibility in sharing that information. Because if you're trying to sway someone to go a certain way, and then they find out you gave them truly false information, you might lose them forever there.
Amy, what happened to your sound? Uh-oh. Not sure what happened to Amy. Jeff. Okay, we have Jeff with us now. Jeff Kennedy is with us, and Reverend Fordham. Jeff, you can unmute yourself and turn on your video. Reverend Fordham, how are you tonight? Good to see you.
I'm good. It's good to see you. Good to see everybody on tonight. Good to see everybody. Good to see you all. Good to see Jeff and Amy. and whoever's on. Good to see you.
Yes. All right. So, of course, we're talking about the midterm elections, and this is definitely a most crucial race. And we're talking about the battleground states tonight and what's at stake in our country. And, what is the fate of our country going to be after tomorrow night? So, what are your thoughts on this election, Reverend Fordham?
Well, when I think of the election, I think of ancestors. I think of all the people who have suffered and died for the right to vote. When a person votes, they must realize that so many people have died to give them the right to go to the polls and vote. There are a lot of blood on those polls, a lot of pain on those polls. People of all ethnic groups, people white, Jews, and all have suffered for people to have the right to vote. And I think it will be a disservice to anyone if they do not vote. They are slapping their ancestors in the face. They are slapping all the people who have died in the face. They are turning their back on the pain, the blood, the tears that was shared by ancestors, their great grandparents. Vote count. Vote matters. If vote did not matter, then what is all this fuss is all about? Why are they always trying to change the voting places and change the rules and change the regulations? They go to Supreme Court and fuss and change stuff. If voting did not matter, your votes matter. You matter. You matter. People matters. They're trying to discourage the vote, trying to discourage you from voting. Vote send the strongest message. Anyone that vote, it send the strongest message there is. You want to see changes. And if you don't vote, and when things happen the way you didn't want them to happen, my question is one thing: did you vote?
Right.
If you did not vote, you don't have a say. Too much blood on these polls, too much pain, too much. People was hanged, people was drowned, people was buried and everything else because they wanted to vote. People's houses were bombed and people, I mean, if you think of all the suffering of the people, you have no choice but to vote. Vote for them. Who didn't have a chance to vote? You worry about economics and you worry about all this stuff. It ain't not gonna matter if you don't vote. That ain't gonna make no difference. You ain't gonna have nothing to have an economy because the people won't be able to vote. They won't be here. Voting matters. Let's vote, and let's vote. Because do not listen to all the naysayers and do not listen to people who just don't have nothing to say. But I'm encouraging everybody to vote. And you vote, and my thing to people, vote who you think will be for your best interest. I know who I'm gonna vote for, but vote for who you think will serve your interest. You vote for that, because what you don't realize, you think it's a joke, these people will change the law, democracy will change, and you think these things will change instantly. It's not a matter of process. These things will stop instantly. Pain will start now. And this is nothing to play with. So I'm encouraging everybody to please do their part and vote.
Yes, definitely. Do your part and vote, everybody. It is very important. And we are encouraging you to do that tonight, buddy. You cannot stress the importance of it enough. So much is at stake during this election this year, the midterms. And, another thing, Reverend Fordham, a lot of people don't even vote during the midterms because so many people think that the midterms aren't that important, and they wait and they only vote when it's a presidential election. But these midterms are the ones that are the most important, people, and you have to realize that, especially when we have local elections, because aren't you concerned about what goes on in your own city, in your own township, in your own county, in your own state? So we definitely have to vote tomorrow. And, in the state of Pennsylvania, a lot's on the line, because, it's going to determine whether Pennsylvania is going to be blue or if it's going to be red. And then across this country, like, there are 435 seats, okay, in Congress that are up. And so how are people going to vote? Okay. And then 35 Senate seats. So how are people going to vote? And that is the question. Will you vote? And as Reverend Fordham said, vote for who you feel as though is going to be the best candidate for you. Have you done your research? If you have not, do so. You still have time. Google these candidates. Do some research about their background, what they've actually done, and look at it. And don't believe these political ads, because most of the political ads lie. So you definitely want to do your research on the candidates, and you want to get out and vote. And another thing I share with people sometimes, hey, you may be a Republican, you may be a Democrat, and during the general elections, you don't have to vote for your party line. So if you're a Republican and you say, well, I don't like the Republicans running, so I want to vote for a Democrat, you can. You don't have to vote Republican. That's only in the primary where you have to vote for your party. Okay. But during the general election, hey, you can vote for whatever political party that you want to. So don't think that you have to go in there and vote for Republicans. Same way for Democrats. Don't, you may have a Republican running in your state or your city, and you say, hey, I like this Republican. You can vote for that Republican, and it's perfectly fine. And sometimes you may not like your candidate. And so for me, there's only a few times that I've actually voted straight party. And that's simply because, hey, a lot of the times I don't see a candidate that I like in a particular race, and I choose the other candidate because I don't feel as though the other one is going to do what we're expecting them to do, or because of maybe what they stand for, or, so, and it's perfectly fine, people. It's perfectly fine. You can do that, and never ever make the mistake of voting for a candidate just because they're popular, okay, just because they're famous, just because they have lots of money, and just because they may be your friend. But if you know that friend is not filled with integrity, why would you vote for your friend? Even your family member, if they're running and you know what type of person they really are, why vote for them? Just to say, oh yeah, my brother, my father is so and so and so. No, not if they're not going to make a difference for the betterment of your community. And then don't vote for somebody just because of their race. And a lot of people do that. We have Blacks voting for a Black person just because that Black person is running, so they want to vote for that person. That's the wrong thing to do. If you have not done your research on that person, it doesn't mean they're going to make things better. It doesn't mean that they're going to value what you value. It doesn't mean that they're going to help your communities or anything. So you can't vote that way. And the same thing with Hispanics. Don't vote for someone just because they're Latino. What are they going to do? So we can't go by race. We cannot go by political affiliation. Sometimes we can't go by gender. Some men are so like anti-women, that's what I want to call it, they don't want to see a woman in a certain position. Well, men, hear me and hear me good. If that woman is going to do a better job than that male that's running against her, why not vote for her? But you'd rather see her not fill that seat just because you're like a male chauvinist pig? Really? So it's time to stop all that nonsense. And it's time to vote for the candidate that you feel as though is going to do the best job and do it well. So it doesn't make sense. We have so many things that we deal with in this country as far as people and their mentality and their way of thinking and their way of doing things. And, that has to stop as well. And we have to realize that the fate of our country is at stake. And it's real. It's real, people. It's real. So we have to vote for who we feel as though is going to help this country, that is going to help their constituents, and that's going to do the right thing. So if you have gun issues and you don't want to see these loose gun laws in place, and if you want to see assault rifles banned, then you should know who to vote for. Vote for that candidate that is against these freedom of us walking around the streets with guns and being able to purchase assault rifles, and even the ones, shucks, I can't even, I know all the different types of guns, but I can't think of the one I want to talk about right now.
Automatic, semi-automatic.
Yeah, semi-automatics, and yes, yeah. But then it's another one I was thinking about too. But yeah, so if you don't want to see those type of guns on the street, then you should know who to vote for. Vote for the candidate that's against that crap. If you want to, gun violence to go down, vote for that candidate that is going to do what he can or she can to combat this gun violence situation that's running rapid across this country. It's like sweeping through our country, especially in the inner cities. And in the inner cities, we have a lot of black on black crime. And so far, the candidates that are in your cities and they're not really taking that seriously, guess what? Vote for some that will, because this is a serious issue. And the mass shootings, a serious issue. So we have to take all these things into account. If you're a woman and you believe in women's rights, you definitely want to vote for that candidate that's going to protect your rights as women. And so take to heart what is on your heart and what you want to see in a candidate. And then that's how you vote. That's how you vote. All right, let's say hello to Jeff.
Can I say
Jeff,
something?
where are you?
Chinchilla,
go ahead, Reverend Fordham, sure.
You spoke something about the gun right, the gun laws. Let me be very, these gun laws, it's not done through the city. The state regulate the gun law.
State. Right, yeah.
State. And this is what most folks do not understand. The state regulate these gun laws. The city might want to do that. Let's just like when the Mayor Kenny wanted to make a law about gun rights around these centers, the state and David O fought against that. Okay, and they fought against that. We must understand certain things a mayor, our president cannot do. When we talk about these high gas prices, that is not a local issue. The high gas prices is a global issue. It's around the world. This is a global issue. People don't know facts. I like what Meg said about facts. You must know your business. I'm tired of people run off the mouth and don't know facts. Shut the heck up. You don't know what you're talking about. Facts. When people talk about we don't have food in the supermarket, we ain't got no meat. Don't you realize 2 years ago, those meat factories shut down because everybody working had COVID? People don't know the facts. And yet they'll go and vote for some clown, oh, because he's rich. And you look, come on, people. They're not, rich folks oppresses you. Rich folks is not going to help you. If you think Leon Musk going to help you, you better think again. They don't help you, okay? Now, I'm not going to go my rant. I just decided to make those few points and ask the next girl, okay, carry on.
Chinchilla, I also want to add something here real quick. You know, we talk about the local people we vote for. And, you know, I'm going to talk local, I'm going to talk state, everything like that. You know, many people may be aware that we have senators and representatives who are attempting to impeach Larry Krasner. Now,
Oh, yeah.
what
Yeah, I was going to talk about
people-
that too. Yeah, go ahead.
what many people don't understand is, you know, you have these senators coming from out in Western Pennsylvania who really don't know what's happening in Philly. They see our news headlines. Now, I don't live in the city of Philadelphia, so I don't vote for Larry Krasner. I would if I did, if I lived there. But there was a documentary on WHYY, and I forget what it was called. But if you pay close attention to that documentary, it was the police who actually said they were going to do what they could do to make Krasner look bad. They actually said this on a documentary. And the reason that they're doing that, they said they're going to let Philadelphia turn into the Wild West because Larry Krasner is standing up for what is right. He is freeing people who are actually innocent. He's freeing people who were overcharged for their crimes that, you know, they got charged with first-degree murder and were given life without the possibility of parole and should not have been charged with a crime of that magnitude. And the police are angry. So they are, and I'm not against the police. I'm not opposed to them. You know, if somebody's breaking into my house, I'm going to grab my gun and I'm going to call 911. But I want them to do what our tax dollars are paying them to do. And our citizens need to understand that this is not, a district attorney isn't out there, shouldn't be out there ruling the streets. He's there to prosecute crimes. And
That's
he's
right.
prosecuting crimes that he feels can be prosecuted. And he's doing so fairly from what I know. And he's bringing people home that deserve to be home. So, you know, we have to pay attention to all that. And you had mentioned we have to pay attention to local elections. We need to pay attention to district attorney elections. They're usually at an off time. And, you know, I mentioned John Brookins earlier. I'm very good friends with his wife, Karen. I love her to pieces. And it kills me that this district attorney has this power to deny that man his DNA testing.
Right.
And we have to pay attention because district attorneys matter. Our taxpayer dollars are going to incarcerate these people. So give the man a $300 DNA test. I truly believe 100% in John Brookins' innocence. But if you don't, give him the DNA test. So if you want to say, no, he's not, give him the DNA test. There shouldn't be anything about it. So we have to focus on what, like the overall picture of what's taking place, that, you know, these individuals that we're voting for, and that they understand what is taking place. Because why do we have senators or state representatives in Western Pennsylvania who are getting in to try to impeach and disenfranchise the voters?
Right.
All these people who voted Larry Krasner in. It's not right.
It's
so
not
we got to
right.
stand up. And for women, you know, I've heard many women, this is the last thing I'm going to say, who have said, I'm going to vote a certain way because my husband told me I had to. Get out of here. Your husband does not tell you who you vote for. You do not need to tell your husband who you voted for. You don't need to tell anybody who you voted for.
Right, exactly.
So get in the polls and vote for what's right for you.
That's right. What's right for you. And with Krasner, so that was one of the issues I was going to talk about. And I've talked about that on News Forum quite a bit when they first started trying to impeach him. And I went to the hearing that they had with the special committee that they formed, you know, the special state committee that was comprised of, let me see, I think it was a total of 5 people on that committee. And so they had those hearings down in the city of Chester. And there were supposed to be public hearings where anybody from the public can go in. But yet they deterred the public from coming in. I was able to get in, of course, because I'm the media, so I was able to get in. And it was just crazy. So they didn't get, okay, who has a double device one or something that's having feedback? But they did not allow anybody to speak, of course, that was in favor or support of DA Krasner. There were only families there that were had lost someone to gun violence and speaking against Krasner. And so that whole day was just crazy. Then there was a second day. The second day, there were no other reporters there but me. And the first day it was filled with a lot of reporters. Second day it was not. So I was the only one there. And they didn't let anybody else in. So there were so many people outside that wanted to come in. They told them that they could not come in. And so that was so very wrong. But this was a tactic that
He knows the full story.
Republicans started because they wanted to try to get our
Good.
minds and focus
Watch what
off
Stevie's
of
fucking
this
showing. It's so
crucial
stupid.
election. So that was a ploy
to do our best
from
to
the
stop
Republicans,
this from
but then you have the
getting out.
Democrats
And me
You
and
hear me,
that
Ed?
were on board
dedicated
with them,
hours of our
and they're the
day
ones that
for
don't like
several
Krasner,
consecutive days
and it's so
trying to
sad.
prevent
But yeah,
this stupid
Krasner's
fucking
done a
article
great
from coming
job
out. We tried
while
so
he's been in
hard
office,
and we
and
failed.
you know he's been
Now there's a
fulfilling
reason
his
we didn't
promises
sign it
to the city of
because we
Philadelphia.
didn't approve of it. We didn't
And
approve of it. And I
I
told
like
that little
Krasner, you
bitch
know,
Nick
he
on the fucking
comes
phone. I
out, he's
said,
come out
"You go
to
ahead
our
and
Be a
release
Voice
it,
rallies,
and I won't go
you
against
know,
you.
so
I
and he's
won't
done a
condemn you,
lot,
right?
and he has cleaned up that DA's office,
But
those corrupt
and I didn't want to
prosecutors.
condemn it because like I
You
was
know,
still
his
thinking like, oh,
first day
these
of
are the
office, he said he was
victims.
going to go in there
And
and
there
get
needs to be a
rid of the
trial, but it's
filth.
like
And
in the
guess what?
event that Caleb
He did
is
just
guilty
that. First few
and
days
I
in office,
condemn
he
the
fired
fucking Medium
31.
article, it's like I'm not gonna
31 of
take the
them.
rap for Caleb. I don't
And
fucking
you
know if
know,
he's
so the
guilty or not.
FOP is mad with him.
If he really
The
did
whole
victimize
police
people, I
department,
don't
a lot
know.
of them
So
are
I told him
totally
I'm gonna
mad
stay
and
away
against
Finally
from
him
this shit.
admit that you
because
don't
Told
know
that
what you're
flame
he is
talking
looking
about.
into
you are
cases of
persona non
corruption.
grata. I will never give you a
His
fucking
conviction
platform.
integrity
I will
unit.
never let you use
They're
infrared to grow
bringing
clout. I
charges
will
and
never have anything to fucking do
having
with you.
these
You're a
police
bunch of
officers
First
snakes.
2 weeks,
indicted
you saw
You
new
that
wreckers.
people
were
You
the whole
corrupt
have no
time.
in wrongful
discipline.
conviction
You have no
He's
cases.
integrity.
actually
So yeah,
promoting
they're
the
gonna
guy
get
that he's saying
angry.
he's not
So
gonna get
what they
persona
want
non
to
grata
do, they
to.
want to turn people against him, saying that, you know, oh, he doesn't care about these gun laws. He's allowing these shooters and murderers to just stay out, and he's not even giving them bail. He's letting them out with not having to pay bail and all this other stuff. Okay. He does prosecute criminals. Okay. So it's not like he doesn't prosecute criminals, because he does. And, you know, it's just craziness. But now they stopped that, you know, back in September is when they had that 2-day hearing, September 29th and 30th. And so I asked Carrie Beninghoff, I said, well, so what happens now? What are you guys going to do now? Because the people they had to come in and testify, these experts, they didn't find that DA Krasner did anything wrong, and that he is the DA of Philadelphia, and the state of Pennsylvania has no jurisdiction, and they cannot dictate to him how he runs his office. And so everything he did, he was not like in any type of contempt or anything. So they didn't find anything wrong. And so they said to that board that they didn't have any reasons to impeach him. They had no grounds for impeachment. And so, yet Beninghoff said, well, I'm not sure we're going to meet and we're going to talk about it. So I'm not sure where it's going to go from here. So you didn't hear anything else about it. But then on October 26th, Martina White, who's a representative here in Philadelphia, she filed articles of impeachment against Krasner. And, you know, she did it because everybody was complaining that all of these other people, these other state representatives from these other counties that were not part of Pennsylvania, I mean, not part of Pennsylvania, not part of Philadelphia, were the ones out to get him. So they had a Philadelphian do it. And, you know, it's just so sad. So now here we are again. Now they filed that on October 26th, about what, almost 2 weeks before Election Day. Once again, to try to take our focus off of this crucial election. And it's so very sad. Now he's not up for election this year because he won for his second term last year. Okay. And so it's crazy, but they want to impeach him. But guess what? They can't. And if they're continue to try, it's very sad because it's like now they're not just trying to impeach him. They're like trying to impeach all the voters that voted for him. You know, we voted him into office. So how can they impeach us? Okay. We voted for him and we believed in Krasner. So if anybody should be trying to impeach him, it should be his constituents that voted for him if they think that he's done a horrible job. But we have not filed any impeachment articles because we believe that he's done a great job in office. So, you know, they need to stop with this nonsense. It's just so sickening, Amy, that, you know, they do these things as ploys and tactics and try to strategize and find ways to deter people from voting and
And
to
they're trying to cover up.
voting for the people that we should be voting for. Go ahead, Amy.
I'm sorry. They're trying to cover up the injustices of the police. The previous district attorney, Lynn Abraham.
Yeah.
You know, how much taxpayer dollars are going to actually innocent people in prison? And let's just put that to the side for a minute. Well, we have all these actually innocent people in prison, and it's up to 220,000 in the United States, at least 120,000 in the United States, actually innocent people. What we have to remember is that in many of those cases, the actual perpetrator is still on the streets and they're not prosecuting them. And this is something that they're covering up. And we really need to begin holding people accountable. We need to hold district attorneys accountable, like Matt Weintraub, who won't test the DNA. You know, there was just a case in Dauphin County where you had Fran Chardo, who he knowingly had someone in prison and knew that this person was innocent. I believe you did a show on him. I forget his
what county was
Randolph.
Oh, Samuel Randolph. Yeah.
And you know, the travesty that happened to that man, you know, before I did advocacy for for second chances, I was a 100% wrongful conviction advocate. And so that's something that's near and dear to my heart. And when I read his story and his family had to sell their business, he was denied a good attorney. He had his hands handcuffed behind his back and was beaten. So he's now paralyzed. And, you know, the DA in his county, there's not going to be any accountability because he has prosecutorial immunity. And, you know, we need to think about all these things and, you know, innocent people who are in prison, guilty people who are in prison, who are over incarcerated, because we have a huge problem with that in Pennsylvania. And those who continue to get away with it, the police officers who continue to get away with things, you know, the Sex for Lies scandal. I have someone inside who's still inside. He was released and then he was taken back into prison and he's waiting for some decisions to be made for that. And, you know, we really need to know what's going on and how crazy and unjust our society is, not just on the criminal justice side, but all around. You know, I mean, what are we voting for, and what do we want as human beings with equal rights, diversity, inclusion, you know, being cared for as human beings, fellow human beings. Some are better than others. but we should be, working with politicians who want to lift up communities and make things
Yeah.
better for the disenfranchised and the oppressed. And
Mhm.
research, not Facebook news.
That's good enough. Yeah, yeah. And Amy, often, that's my thing, the wrongful convictions, and like with John Brookins' case, Karen has been on the podcast several times and on news forums several times talking about John's case. And, that's one of the cases that really, really pisses me off, especially with that racist Matt Weintraub. He's horrible. He's horrible. He's horrible. And the way he handled the commutation hearing, horrible. He acted like it was a trial, like John was on trial and he was standing up there prosecuting the case. But then what really pissed me off, he was allowed to do that. He spoke it seemed like it was almost an hour. He was allowed to just speak and keep talking about, why John should not be commuted. And, it was just horrible, a fiasco. And then Craig Cooley, who was the representative for John that day, when it was his turn to speak, his time was cut short. And that was so very wrong. I'm like, well, what the heck?
Yeah.
And he should have had more time to speak on John's behalf.
And I believe he was muted.
They didn't
I believe
allow
he was
anybody
muted.
else to speak to John. And he had so many people there to support him, waiting to speak from the prison that were not allowed to speak. Okay. So his record has been totally exemplary the whole time he's been in there now, 31 years. And it's sad. And, he's done nothing but good in that prison. And to have the brother of the son of the victim in that case say that, his sister did it, and then not to say it again. And so now what happened with that? Okay. It's just so much in that case, Amy. It just really pisses me off to no end.
It
to
does.
no end.
And
Yeah.
that's where, wrongful conviction is still near and dear to my heart. But it made me flip to second chances.
Mhm.
Because again, 94% of the rest of the country allows for the possibility of parole after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's the possibility of parole. It is not a guarantee that you're going to have
Right.
people come out. And,
Yeah.
I had someone inside who once asked me when I was doing the wrongful conviction, he said, Amy, I respect you for the fight that you have, but I'm guilty of my crime. This man is the one who changed me. He says, I'm guilty. And he said, I meant to kill my victim. And he paused for a moment. And he said, when I was 20 years old, and I didn't know what that meant. I did not know. And I'm a different person today. And he says, I've seen innocent people come into these walls who have turned into terrible people. And I've seen guilty people who have come in and saved the lives of their captors. And after 25 or 30 years, we're all the same. And I said, well, when we have innocent people inside, you're not really all the same. We need to really push to have them come home. And they should be compensated for every single thing that they lost in that time frame.
Yeah.
But it was that individual who made me realize that we're all human beings. And as I said earlier in this podcast, I stood trial for second-degree murder when I was 18 years old. And I was fortunate. And, I often say the color of my skin, because my co-defendants were Hispanic and I'm the Italian girl. Will I ever know that? No, because the jurors don't need to say the reason why they did an acquittal or anything. But, I'm not the person I was 28 years ago. So that's the people we need to vote in are people who are going to stand up like John Fetterman, who are going to say, people are not their worst day. People are not that crime for what they were convicted for, whether they're guilty or innocent. So yeah, it's disgusting. Our system is just disgusting. We need people like John Fetterman, and if we want this commutations process, which is the only avenue for people in Pennsylvania with life sentences to come home because we can't get bills passed. You know, we need Shapiro, who will be a governor who would sign off on the board recommendations for commutation, because Doug Mastriano is going to shut it down and he is going to
Yeah.
bring back the death penalty. You know, even though
Mm.
he is so pro-life, or shall I say pro-birth, he is for killing people, and some of them may be innocent.
Death penalty, right? Death penalty, definitely. And with that, Amy, like, okay, so I have people that have been writing and, you know, asking questions about these issues. And then, you know, I can definitely understand where they're coming from, because you know, these are some things I, you know, have mentioned before as well, not tonight, but on a radio show. Okay, so let's say, for instance, we're Shapiro. Okay, so right now, Shapiro, he's the AG. And he, you know, sits on that board, the pardon board. And now Shapiro, okay, and all of them voted no for John's sentence to be commuted. Fetterman voted yes last year for his sentence to be commuted. And now this time, when John was up for to, you know, to see if he could get another commutation hearing, you know, during that merit hearing. So they had cases of people that wanted to be heard again. And so that day, every last one of those cases were denied for a new commutation hearing. Now, what bothered me with that, okay, John Fetterman did not make a motion. So the way that goes, people, someone has to make a motion for the case to be heard again. And no one made a motion, not even John Fetterman. He did not make a motion. And that really upset me, because he did not make a motion. He should have made a motion. And, you know, the motion would not have flew, okay? It was not going to fly, because no one was going to second the motion, you know, but it bothered me so bad. He did not make a motion. I'm like, well, what the heck? He did not make a motion for John to have a new commutation hearing when he should have, because, you know, he says he stands up for what's right, even if he's the only one. His wife says he stands up for what's right, even if he's the only one standing up for what's right. But that day, he did not stand up for what was right. And that really pissed me off, because he should have stood up for John Brookins. And yeah, Oz has, you know, that commercial out about him releasing murderers and, you know, talking about the Brookins case. So what? If you believe in his innocence, stand up for him every time. So, but he didn't. And then you have Josh Shapiro. You have Josh Shapiro, who is the AG now, and he put together this conviction integrity unit that is like really like not really a conviction integrity unit, because they have not done anything. There's like so many people like up in Erie County and different parts of Pennsylvania that have, you know, tried to get their cases looked at and reviewed by that conviction integrity unit that he, you know, had created, but to no avail. And so there's so many of them that are so upset because he's not doing anything. It's like he just created that conviction integrity unit, say, hey, look, I'm doing something. I have this conviction integrity unit. I'm really trying to get people out that are innocent. But then if you look at his track record on how he votes during the pardon board hearings, it's like terrible. So I don't think he would really do a good job with trying to get people commuted or anything else. But when we look at Doug Mastriano, oh boy.
It's the lesser of two evils.
The lesser of two evils, okay?
And
and Doug Mastriano is way far more evil, okay?
I have to hope that, you know, with Shapiro getting in the governor's seat, that he realizes what the board is about, and that he will easily sign the commutations when there's that recommendation. But we have that whole board that, in my opinion, you know, I really like Miss Grayson, but then
Yeah.
we have those other two
Oh, yeah.
that it's, you know, consistent no votes, and it's what is going on with this process.
Yeah, always no.
You know, it's
No.
horrible. And this last hearing, I mean, it was heartbreaking to me with all these no votes, because it's
Yep,
this
every
is
last one of 'em.
political, and it's Dr. Oz had that celebrity influence and that buying power for the commercials, because the amount of no's that we were seeing, it was, we need to be bringing these people home. Our prisons are turning into nursing
Yeah.
homes in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. You know,
Yeah.
and we're proving with the juvenile lifers who have been released that they can do good in the communities, whether they were guilty or innocent. They can help
Mhm.
these communities. They can help these juveniles who are going crazy in the city, because, you know, right now we've locked up their fathers and their grandfathers and the role models. So you have them who are incarcerated for life, and then the police who are saying we're going to turn this into the Wild West. And it's like, what do you expect? What do you expect to have happen?
Right. Yeah, it's so sad. It's so sad. And when we look at in the city of Philadelphia, like I've had so many of the guys, you know, come on to News Forum, you know, on the radio show and on the podcast, talking about their stories. You know, we have Ghani, 15 years old when he was locked up for a homicide. And hey, look at all the good he's doing. Look at all the good that Salim Hallbrook is doing. And, you know, these are juvenile lifers that have been given a second chance. Donnell Drinks and so many others. Surge. Well, yeah. And, you know, look at what they're doing. Okay. Look at what they're doing in the community. And they're doing so much good. So, yeah, second chances, people do deserve a second chance. And should everybody that is in prison, should they all be given a second chance? Heck no, because some of them have not changed. Some of them are still violent criminals. And of course, if you're still a violent criminal, then by all means, they shouldn't be out. But the ones that have done a lot of good behind those walls and don't pose a threat to society, let them out. Give them a second chance at life and to live. Because especially as a kid, when they made mistakes and they've learned and they have shown remorse and they've changed, so they deserve a second chance.
And listen,
And so, yeah,
listen
Amy.
to the captors who see them every day, who know them.
Right.
You know, the people who see them day in and day out and know the people that they are today should have a
Yeah.
significant say in that. And I always ask, like, when we're at commutation and they're denying them after the prison has recommended them,
Mm-hmm.
how does the prison feel that they're, you know, I've, as an advocate, I've talked to mostly where my loved one is, you know, and a lot of times they'll say, we want to see these people go home. You know, they're amazing people who have made a difference, who are changing the lives of individuals who will go home. And they're stuck here. Like, we want them to go home. We want them to come back and visit. And just the fact that we can't get that done, you know, so many things need to change, and people need to be educated about how it works. Because, you know, through this whole race, my mom was telling me a story that she was talking to her friend who lives in Arizona, and her friend is a Republican. And she said, I can't believe that John Fetterman, he wants to let out all those convicted murderers. Can't they just wait until it's their time to go? He wants to release them early. And my mom said, excuse me. She said, there is no early release for people convicted of first or second degree murder. And she said, that's 25 years. And my mom says, no, it is life. It is death by incarceration. It is the other death penalty.
Yeah.
And I was so proud of my mom for standing up for that, because she's not one to really try to, you know, rock the boat or anything. And this woman says, no, you get out after 25 years. No, you don't. Not in the state of Pennsylvania. And so many times, you know, I've watched the commutation hearings, and there's times that I've seen victims' families who have come before the board and they've actually stood for those individuals. They said, I thought that person was out a long time ago, because the DAs presented it in a way that they didn't realize that life was death. And a couple times I've seen family members of victims who have come forth and stood to say, yes, I want to see this person come home. And there's times I've seen it happen and the board has still denied the individual. And it's like, what in the world is going on here? You know, it's crazy, but we need Fetterman, we need Shapiro, we need to vote for people who understand what is truly happening and how archaic our laws are, and based on Quaker laws. But the Quakers were forgiving and loving and peaceful people, yet we have this mass incarceration with no forgiveness and no way out. And I do also want to say that I am a victim of personal crime, and I've also lost 3 loved ones to crime. So I'm not speaking just as an advocate. I'm not speaking as someone with loved one in prison. I'm speaking from all aspects of this, from having stood trial to being a victim to knowing people in prison. And it's important that we start to make changes and, you know, start to save taxpayer dollars, start saving our money and investing in our communities, investing in the programs you mentioned. Ghani, campus songster, who, you know, he's with the program that works with the juveniles. Let's start putting money into those programs to get these kids off the street, to stop them from going into prison.
Right. Wow, thank you so much, Amy. I'm gonna play the Get Out the Vote song again, and then we're gonna talk to Pastor Francetta Mays, the president of the NAACP in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So let's listen to this Get Out the Vote song, y'all, because y'all got to get out and vote tomorrow. You have to. You have to. All right, get out and vote. Tomorrow is election day. Get out and vote. It's your duty, it's your right, and you have to do it, people. You have to. How are you tonight, Francetta?
I'm outstanding. How are you, sis?
I am fine, thank you. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
he
joining us
prefers
tonight.
that they spank their nipples?
Now,
Like, what
in
the fuck are you
Oklahoma.
talking about?
You guys have some big key races there for your state as well.
And
And
Sound like a politician.
what are the major issues in the state of Oklahoma that people are concerned about?
Well, let me just say this. First of all, Oklahoma has been really inundated for a really long time with the same things that we are struggling with. What I get really frustrated with is the fact that the only time we're really talking about it is during election year. Like, surprise, you know, these issues don't just pop out because it's an election. So when we are basically allowing people to come and talk to us about stuff that we see every single day, but it's not important until it comes time to vote someone into office. They've already proven themselves. The track record's already there. So issues here in Oklahoma, mass incarceration, especially with people of African American, you know, that are African American, male and female. Issues here in Oklahoma. Education wise, I think we're 50th or 51 in the nation. Are you kidding me? In Oklahoma? I mean, you know, this is a sign of the complacency of the people. See, I'm even past the leadership part, right? Because I'm just furious that we can allow people to sit in offices and not be outraged and not, just sit back and be complacent and be totally okay with them saying, no, we're going to shut this down, or we're going to control this entity of government or your body, or whatever the case may be. And they make these decisions to incarcerate the breadwinners of families, stick you on some kind of public assistance, and then make you like it. And so, the issues here in Oklahoma certainly have to do with the monopoly of the haves and the have-nots, the monopoly of those that really, just case in point, District 1, the election that I ran here back in August, the vote, it was sad. Out of 17,000 people in the district, 3,000 people came out to vote. But then immediately after that election, I'm seeing where the same people are like now asking for my help and David's help, and still asking for help because the leadership, the same leadership that you just simply checked the box because it was familiar, that's not efficient or effective leadership, that's not concerned about the whole entity of humanity, that may just be, and don't get me wrong, I'm Black Lives Matter, yes it does, but we've got to start looking holistically at where we are as a nation, as a people. We're functioning like a third world country, and it's really sad. Gun violence, gun control, that particular part. It seems like weekly I'm hearing about a 15-year-old or 15-year-olds that have these guns, and I'm like, you know what? At what point, parents, do we not check our kids' rooms? Check between the bed, check in the closet. Go and check their friends out. Make sure you can tell the characteristics. Man, come on now. My son was not happy with me, but I took my little money that I had and paid for him to have to go into a private entity outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, once upon a time. And he didn't like it, but 3 weeks later, he was like, thank you, for saving my life. We've desperate times call for desperate measures. And I give God the glory that my son is alive. He used to think that he was only going to live to be a certain age. So what am I saying? Each one, reach one, teach one. All of this starts in our homes, up under our roofs. We got to quit relying upon some strangers to lead us into some fictitious promised land. Of course, they're gonna rain. What they say, piss on your head and tell you it's raining. Of course, they're gonna do that. They're trying to get a job,
right?
We gotta have people that it's an assignment for them to bridge the gap of the older generation, new generation. And let's start helping to explain to those that care, what this process was, what's symbolic about this process. Even the fight for, even the NAACP, it's you've got people that's like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to participate. Listen, you can say what you want to, but see, we are they. You can say they are not doing all day long. But even when we have people that are in office, we are still they. I've said it time and time again. We're the employers. They're our employees. It's real simple. When you have an employee that's not doing a job properly, the masses is supposed to, have a problem with that. And then we are supposed to address that issue. And then we get rid of the employee. We don't keep voting them back in office because the name is familiar and we still see everything is jacked up and they're not doing nothing. And then you get you get upset because you might have somebody that maybe you don't like everything about them. But I mean, I don't know about anywhere else, but Pennsylvania almost sound like it does here in Oklahoma, where the politicians and leaders are like saying, once I'm in office, I'm getting paid. So I'm going to focus on my four and no more, or I'm going to focus on my friends, and I'm not going to care about those that didn't support me. I don't understand. That's all I got.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you some more questions in a little bit, Francetta. Amy, thank you so much for coming on, being on this panel tonight. And I know you had to hop off, so go ahead, give your closing remarks.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Chinchilla, for having me on here. Hope I didn't ramble on too much, but I'm very passionate about this. And for any of the ladies who are listening, pay attention to what's happening. Get out there and vote. Vote for yourselves, vote for your daughters. Gentlemen, please vote for your sons and your daughters. Your sons could be impacted if things were to change tomorrow. Also, I want to point out that people who have been convicted of felonies are allowed to vote, and hopefully it's too late to register now, but you can get out and vote, and at least go ahead and register for future elections. Vote.
Yeah, clarify that, not the ones that are in prison, but the ones that are out now.
Not the ones that are in prison, but I believe if you are in county prison and have not yet been convicted of your crime, I do believe that they are allowed to vote.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was passed. But yes, if you're in prison, then no, you can't vote. And be safe during the elections. I want you to be safe, because this is probably the most contentious election I've seen in my lifetime. A lot of anger, a lot of different feelings either way. And vote for what is right. Vote for that. As you said earlier, you're not going to have every single thing about a candidate that you like, but vote for the thing that's closest to you, and think about the long-term repercussions, because that whole Roe versus Wade, again, I would not have an abortion. I do not want to have an abortion, but so I don't have one. But if someone has a medical need to have one, then they should have that, and that should be between their doctor and them, not the state, not the federal government. And that's things that we're deciding tomorrow. Tomorrow could change a lot of things, and it could legitimately take us back 50 years. In 1974, I think that's when women were allowed to begin getting their bank accounts without getting their husband's permissions. Do we want to go back to that? Do I don't have to go and find somebody who can sign for me to get a bank account? Like, we don't want to go there. And this is real, and it's scary, and a lot of this is uneducated people letting power go to other people's heads or making decisions for us. So vote right, whatever you feel is right. I'm going to tell you, on my end, right is blue. And that's something that's changed too. Voting used to be a very private thing where we didn't truly have to share whether we were Democrat or Republican, and now it's blue team, red team. But speaking of team, this isn't a football team. This is the next 4 years for our governors. It's the next 6 years for a US senator. And once some decisions are made, we cannot turn back. If Pennsylvania goes red tomorrow and they were to get rid of the ability for women to have a medical decision, that's done. It's over. Just like the federal, when Roe collapsed, it's done. It's a done deal. So think about your daughters. As I said earlier, it can go either way. You can say, oh, you want to murder unborn babies, which haven't even become a baby yet. Or I can say, well, you're going to allow your daughters to be murdered when they're going to die carrying a baby that can't make its term, that will kill them. So
Yeah.
I can argue either way with you on that one. But vote, vote. And if,
Yes.
you know, you can take people tomorrow, I'm taking my parents, I'm voting, I'm taking my parents. And if there's anybody that I know, again, be careful out there. Don't just offer rides to strangers, please. But, you know, if you have people that need a ride, or, you know, need you to babysit for a few minutes so they can run in to vote, help them vote. Just vote.
Yes. Yes. Vote. Here we go, everybody. And
All
thank you
right.
so much, Amy.
Thank you, Chinchilla. I
for
will talk to you
on
soon. Thank you,
Yes.
everybody.
Yes. Vote.
Vote.
And what are we going to do tomorrow, panel?
Vote.
Get out and vote.
That's right. We're going to get out and vote.
Good night, all.
Yeah,
Night, night.
Amy. All right, let's welcome Jeff Kennedy tonight. How are you, Jeff?
Well, I'm very grateful for the invitation as always. It's so good to talk to you. It's been too long. And
Yeah.
forgive me, everybody, from coming to you from my car. I
That's
was
okay.
just out. My very, very much better half than I were out distributing campaign signs at polling places and signs with a 1-800 number for people to, if they're having, or if they feel that they're being disenfranchised at the polling locations. So we've been throughout the Lehigh Valley distributing signs, and I'm actually parked outside of a restaurant here on the south side of Bethlehem, the Christmas City. If you have not been to Bethlehem, let me give an unsolicited and free plug for the city to come here and check it out, especially at Christmas. There's nothing like it. And it will restore your faith in Pennsylvania to an extent. So we're going to grab some dinner whenever she shows up. But that said, if you wouldn't mind, Doctor, if I could tell you a brief story related to voting. I
Sure.
got taken to vote by my father when I was, I think, 5 years old. So I was born in 1969, so that would have been the 1974 election. And I was born in New Jersey. And what is the eastern end of the Lehigh Valley, even though it's in New Jersey, Phillipsburg, New Jersey is as far west in New Jersey as you can get without crossing into PA. And in New Jersey, you get a sample ballot for all of your elections. And the sample ballot looks exactly like what you would see in a polling place. So my dad got me and sat me down at the kitchen table, and we opened up the sample ballot, and he took me through everything. The ballot questions, every election, and so on. Now, obviously, I didn't know who the candidates were, but he knew who he wanted to vote for. And we folded it back up, and then election day came. And he pulled it out, and he got me, and he said, "Come on, we're going to vote." Thought, okay. Well, first off, it was my dad. I was going anywhere he told me to go. But he also, we're going to go vote. So we went to the polling place. I thought it was very interesting how everybody there knew him, because you get to know your poll workers. You see them twice a year, and poll workers tend to work places, over decades. So they all knew him. I thought that was outstanding. And we went in the polling booth, and he opened up the sample ballot and showed me how it looked exactly like what was on the voting machine. And so we went down, and if I recall correctly, it was punch cards way back in the 70s. So he went down each list, each item, and voted. And he said, "Okay, we're done. Time to go." And I said, "But Pop, we're not done yet." I said, "Okay, why aren't we done?" He said, "Well, there's a couple of the offices that you didn't vote for. You didn't vote for anybody." And he bent over and got right in my face, and he said, "Because neither one of them deserve my vote."
Okay.
And I said, "But that's not voting." And he said, "Oh, yes, it is." He said, here's the point. This is your civic duty to come here twice a year, primary, general. It takes out of a whole year. What does it take you? Maybe a half an hour, at least for us. I know it does take longer for other people, but at the time that he was talking to me, half an hour out of a whole year. This is your civic duty to come here and vote. And he goes, and let me tell you something else. Even if you come here and you claim that ballot and you leave the entire thing blank, that's your vote. And it's still your civic duty. Never, never, never let them take your vote from you, no matter what. You never, never let them take your vote from you. That's your vote. It's yours and no one else's. I mentioned on my show last night, probably too many times. If any of your listeners were kind enough to give us a chance and listen to us last night, and I hope that you'll do so. If your vote, folks, all of you, to everybody who can hear my voice right now, if your vote was so meaningless, then the billionaires of this country would not be trying to take it from you. They want to take your vote from you because it matters. Not because it's meaningless, but because it matters. Now, for those of you listening around the world, we might have different ideas on who to vote for. And you know what? God bless you. That's a great thing. Democracy demands several different opinions and ideas on who the right people are. That's good for democracy. But by God, I beg you, no matter what you have to do in the United States tomorrow, go and vote. Do not let them take your vote from you. It is that important. At the end of the day, Doctor, I know that you know this. Mr. Bezos and Mr. Musk are both worth about $250 billion apiece.
Yes.
But and that money buys a lot. It buys a lot of media. It buys a lot of attention. Mr. Musk now controls Twitter. He's gonna help shape right. He's gonna help shape the opinion of literally hundreds of millions of people around the globe. But at the end of the day, when they walk in the voting booth, and when you walk in the voting booth, it's still only one vote a person. That 250 billion doesn't change that. And that's why they want to take your vote from you. Because at the end of the day, there's still only one person, one vote when you walk in that booth. There's a reason why it's the 99% and the 1%. There are more of us. So by God, folks, to the literally however many people are listening around the globe, to the millions of people that are listening, wherever you might be in the United States or her territories, because they vote tomorrow too, go and vote. Walk, drive, public transportation, take a bike, crawl, hop, I don't care what you have to do. Go and vote. It is that important. It truly, truly is. It's that important. It's your right, and it is a civic duty.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Jeff. So now, so Elon Musk, he purchased Twitter, guys, and, for a few billion. And now we know that Twitter had blocked Trump from being on Twitter. Okay. So now that Elon Musk has purchased Twitter, and I think that it's probably a reason why he purchased Twitter, so that he could get his friend Donald Trump back on Twitter. So I'm pretty sure soon we'll see Trump back on Twitter, because now Elon Musk owns it. And, that's so crazy. And Trump supporters, oh boy, jeez. And Trump is going to be running for president next year. So, supposedly, maybe. And, with that, Jeff, I know we're talking midterms, but now if the Republicans have total control of this country. Now, do you think that will make a difference next year when Trump runs for president?
Not necessarily Congress, but it's these individual state secretaries of state that run elections in the individual states. You have a gentleman running for the Republican nominee running for Secretary of State of Arizona, who has already said that if he is elected, Trump will win the state, period. Same thing in Wisconsin and in Florida and in Iowa and in Nevada. So if the Republicans were to take both houses of Congress, President Biden still stands in the way. They can pass whatever legislation they want. He will veto it. What will happen in Congress is that you will start to see a myriad of investigation. There's already a Republican incumbent who is expected to easily win his red gerrymandered district, who has promised to bring articles of impeachment against President Biden and Vice President Harris and most of the cabinet. You also have some who have talked about trying to impeach Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, simply because, I don't know, she's breathing, I guess, because she's a Black female, let's just be honest. So it's not the Congress I would worry about yet. That would be 2024. It's these individual state secretaries of state and attorneys general that are running for election around the country that are election deniers. Some of them that were present at the Capitol on January 6th.
Yeah.
Think about exactly. Well, please think about this too. Mr. Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion. Okay. And he's worth roughly $250 billion.
Yeah.
So he's paid 44. He's still got 210 billion left over. Think about that staggering feeling, that thought. Mr. Musk by himself, Mr. Bezos by himself, are worth more than the individual gross domestic products of over 2/3 of the nations on earth. Think about that. It's staggering. It's staggering. And they are the people that are bankrolling these candidates who are already trying to tell you who's going to win the next election, regardless of who you vote for. There's an overused phrase in our politics now when we talk to each other. And I hate using it because it makes it sound like the people that I'm talking to are stupid. You're not stupid, folks. That overused phrase is, hey, look, you have to understand. Well, folks, you have to understand. I'm asking you to understand. Or if you don't agree with me, I'm asking you to at least think about what I'm saying. The billionaire class in this country has made a conscious decision that democracy is no longer necessary or convenient to their hoarding of wealth. It doesn't matter to them anymore. It's not convenient. They can hoard wealth. They can extract wealth from you without democracy. This is a conscious decision that these folks have made. And that's exactly why, when you go into that voting booth tomorrow, Americans, my fellow Americans, at the end of the day, it's still one person, one vote. It's exactly why you have to go. It's exactly why your vote does matter.
Yes. It definitely matters, people. Now, we know that we have these battleground states. In the state of Florida, we have Mark Rubio and Val Demings. So with that, what do you think is going to be the outcome of that race? You have any predictions on that, Jeff?
I am sad to say that I believe Mr. Rubio will win, and I think it will be roughly comfortable. I also think that Governor DeSantis will win, and that will be even more comfortable. The Democratic Party from the national level backed the wrong candidate. I don't know how many elections Mr. Crist has to lose before he loses the backing of the national party. He was not the right choice. Val Demings is as high quality a human being and candidate as you are going to find in this nation. However, she doesn't have the backing of the billionaires Marco Rubio does. The Republican Party at large, Doctor, is not a functioning political party any longer. It is a corporation. Its employees are people like Marco Rubio and Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. And I can go right down the list to the Louis Gohmerts and Jim Jordans of the world. They are the employees. The owners and the stakeholders and the shareholders in this corporation, this Republican corporation, are Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, the Koch network, the Mercers, Peter Thiel, and I can keep going down the line. Right here in Pennsylvania, we have our own billionaire trying to buy a legislature, Jeffrey Ash. These are the owners of the Republican corporation. The employees are the Republican office holders. This is not a functioning political party anymore, folks. It's not. And if anyone out there is listening that considers themselves a Republican, this is not your Republican Party anymore. This is not the party of Eisenhower. It's not the party of Eisenhower. It's not the party of Nixon. It's not even the party of Reagan or even George W. Bush anymore. It's not a political party, period. And if you're out there and you're a person a bit older, that you might even remember President Eisenhower or even President Nixon, it's not that Republican Party anymore. It is a corporation. They have no plan, no guidance, no leadership. And what plan we do know of is, how do we get more money to the top 1%? We're not just talking about reforming Social Security, we're talking about eliminating it. We're not just talking about privatizing Medicare, we're talking about eliminating it. My goodness, they want to eliminate the minimum wage. Some of them want to eliminate child labor laws. You have Republicans that think that government has no business in education, that all education should be privatized. And if you can't afford it, then too bad for you. Healthcare only if you can afford it. That's not a democracy. That's not a society. It's not a community. That is fascism, period. We have to not be afraid to use that F word. I would never use another F word on your show, Doctor. But we must not be, we must not be afraid.
On this one, you can use an F word. On Nude's
I wouldn't do that anyway. I would never do that. But that said, there is an F word that we must not be afraid of. There is an F word that we must not be afraid of, and the F word is fascism.
Yes.
So the generally accepted creator of fascism was Mussolini in Italy. Very easy to find if you want to use the Google machine. It's, he was the original fascist dictator. And his definition of fascism is the merger of corporate and state interests. It is the unbridled use of governmental power to further corporate aims. What's that sound like? What does that sound like? It sounds like the United States. And if Republicans were ever to regain complete control of the federal government, then it's game over.
Yeah.
It is game over. The Republican nominee for governor of Wisconsin
Huh.
at a rally said publicly